According to its developer, in just a few short months of its release, so-called poker roguelike and bona fide indie smash hit Balatro has been played for close to 6.5 millennia. And no, this isn't just by me, this is the total playtime of the entire player base added up. But still, it's the kind of stat that when you come across it, it staggers you, it humbles you a bit. For example, I think people have collectively watched my videos for a total of about 3 centuries. Several lifetimes. Wild to think about. And I also wonder if, similar to me, the developer is at least partly troubled by that. I'm not saying he should, to be clear. Maybe this is just a weird thing on my part. It's just, in the last few years especially, I've become very aware of time and how it's filled. I like to think I put my time into producing meaningful work, and I hope you like it, but there's a distinct feeling of responsibility, specifically in regard to the time that people give me. It's a strange feeling, one I never envisioned having when I started this, and one that I imagine intensifies when you not only reach the level of playtime that Balatro has, but your very work is seemingly designed to consume that time in what feels like a very direct way. See, I've played a lot of Balatro. It is an astoundingly appropriate game for Steam Deck, and as such, when it released, my pre-sleep routine would involve as much as I could justify. And I'm not the only one that feels this way either. The game kind of became a joke among portions of my friend group, where we'd all lament how much time we'd sunk into it, how much money they'd have poured into it, were that an option beyond the initial asking price. The runs feel quick enough to justify repeat attempts, but I find myself consistently surprised at how much time had just gone in what I thought were those short bursts of play. And with news of the upcoming mobile port, those aforementioned pals were sent into a frenzy about how much they seemingly still had left to lose. So yeah, Balatro must be absolutely incredible, right? A real Game of the Year contender. If you've been playing it, thinking about it this much, well, the truth is, I think I enjoy Balatro. I absolutely respect it. With an art style so great, a rule set this complex that's also this balanced, the fact it was largely made by a single person is all the more impressive. But while I wouldn't say I regret my time with Balatro, the thought of it, of playing any more, brings me exceedingly little joy. It's flashy, it's snappy, it feels like it moves at about 1,000,000 miles a minute, and it releases dopamine to no end when the numbers are set ablaze. But at the end of the day, it's numbers, and very little more. See, what Balatro isn't so much fun or meaningful to me as it is compulsive. And it's a distinction I've talked about before in relation to one of my many No Man's Sky videos, but not my most recent one where I came to the conclusion that I actually really like No Man's Sky now, where my pal and then flatmate asked me why I continued to bang my head against such an immovable wall of a game. I told him because there was something compelling about it, and he said in return that tonguing a mouth ulcer is compelling, but you wouldn't call it enjoyable. And okay, it's harsh to compare Balatro to tonguing a mouth ulcer, but hopefully you get my point. The central gameplay of Balatro amounts to hoping that a random series of cards come around in what is hopefully a convenient configuration, to which you apply some light decision making, all to make another number bigger. The screen shakes and a satisfying cacophony of sounds heighten the impact of what is essentially a slot machine in which you edit colourful cheat engine tables. And it's not the kind of numbers game that makes me feel particularly clever, because so much of it comes down to random chance in terms of what jokers and tarot cards present themselves or whatever. It's like when people claim to have some kind of strategy while gambling. You might as well be saying, my plan in blackjack is to get my cards as close to 21 as possible without going over 21. All this to say, Balatro, like so many games these days, seems primarily designed to hook you, to compel you to keep going one more round. And in Balatro's case, it does so with nothing but increasing numbers and occasionally those same numbers but on fire. Sure, it isn't hooking you to then extract money from you, like the live service games using all kinds of psychological trickery to get your eyes darting towards certain shop-relevant areas of the screen, but I'd also say that's a pretty low ethical bar to clear, and certainly not one that equates to a meaningful gameplay experience. And honestly, despite the time I put into it, I don't think I got that out of Balatro. I certainly don't think every game needs to be some artistic revelation or anything, but I come away from Balatro feeling about the same as I do after I've eaten a massive bag of crisps or something. A bit guilty and barely satiated. Pure empty calories. And look, I don't want to make it out like I hate Balatro or anything, or that I think there's anything remotely nefarious on the part of its developer. I want to reiterate how impressive I think it is that they more or less made this solo. I also realise I'm not saying much particularly new beyond what Harry over at Video Games Are Bad said in his own great video on the game. Also, you might completely disagree with me here, and that's fine. I'm just working through some complicated feelings on this thing here. I guess what I don't like is the feeling that I've had the wool pulled over my eyes, or that I'm being dragged along by naked psychological tricks that ultimately amount to time I feel could have been better spent elsewhere. As I get older, and what little free time I can scrape together feels more and more precious, I'm trying to make the best use of it that I can, or at least be mindful of that time. That's not to say that daft fun in video game form isn't a significant part of that, but I felt a growing dissatisfaction within me towards that sensation that a game or a piece of media took up so much of my time, and it was only later that I realised how little it felt I actually got back from it. Perhaps it's as much an indictment of my own lack of mindfulness in those moments as it is the game in question, but you know, at least Vampire Survivors made me feel like a god when I beat it. As it stands, Balatro isn't made to take your money, but it does seem explicitly crafted to kill time. At last count, about 6,500 years of it. Thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, all that daft YouTube stuff. It really helps the channel and it means the world. A massive thanks as well to my patrons, who you can see on screen and are all getting access to exclusive, fully produced videos that aren't available here. Your continued support is what allows me to keep going with the work I do on this channel, and I seriously cannot express how grateful I am for that. You are all the best. Special thanks go to Mark B. Writing, Artyom Vitsyuk, Michael Tritt, Alex O'Sullivan, Rickety Cricket, Cameron Siniseros, Don McLean, Urban Cheese, Mason Miller, Brendan Hess, Charles J. Liu, Alistair Dunn, Vitautis Catharsis, Dolly Bowman, Young Condor, David Karstens, Tom Webster, Danis Sikauskis, Jordan Midler, Christopher Faherty, Nicholas Villeneuve, Yogesh Deshpande, Joe Lanzone, Leah Chinello, Captain Knussbrich, Dylan Robinson, Bryce Snyder, C-Page Melt Limited, David Björk, Newen Palacios, Timothy Jones, Carr Christensen, Matthew Grover, Shardfire, Lynn Browning, Dallas Keane, and Charlie Yang. And with that, this has been another episode of Writing on Games. Thank you all so much for watching, stay safe, and I will see you all next time.